Hello, this is Pastor Paul. Welcome to the Lord of Life Lutheran Church Sermon Podcast. We're glad you're here. Each week we provide the sermon from our worship service as a way of sharing the hope we have found in Jesus Christ. To learn more about Lord of Life, please visit our website at www.lordoflife.online. And now, here's this week's message. The Holy Gospel according to Mark, the 5th chapter. Glory to you, O Lord. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered around him, and he was by the sea. Then one of the leaders of the synagogue, named Jairus, came and, when he saw him, fell at his feet and begged him repeatedly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be made well and live." So he went with him. A large crowd followed him and pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. She had endured much under many physicians and had spent all that she had, and she was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, for she said, "If I but touch his clothes, I will be made well." Immediately her hemorrhage stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say, 'Who touched me?'" He looked all around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling, fell down before him, and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." When he was still speaking, some people came from the leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the leader of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." He allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the house of the leader of the synagogue, he saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. When he had entered, he said to them, "Why do you make a commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. Then he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha kum," which means, "Little girl, get up." And immediately the girl got up and began to walk about. She was about 12 years of age. At this time, they were overcome with amazement. He strictly ordered them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Well, grace and peace to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Do you ever feel the tension between two choices? For parents with children at home, you get stuck between the needs of aging parents and the needs of your children, and the need to meet your work obligations. For students, you may want to serve others, but feel like it's hard enough to get your own work done, take part in sports or music or any other number of extracurricular activities. For many who are retired, you may feel the pinch to make it to the medical appointments you have, get to events like soccer games and concerts featuring your grandchildren, all while wondering when all of this free time in retirement will begin. Today we continue with the healing stories of the 5th chapter of Mark. We are also in a back and forth with Jesus and the disciples as they crisscross the sea. In the text immediately before this reading, Jesus has healed the demoniac. And today, Jesus is faced with what seems to be an impossible choice: to hurry to save the daughter of an influential and respected person named Jairus, or take time to help someone cast out by society as unclean. One response might mean a nod by someone in power who might make Jesus' work a bit easier. The other, someone who can offer literally nothing but faith in Jesus. It's interesting that both the women, who is considered unclean, and Jairus, a man with lots of social status, both fall at Jesus' feet. The woman cannot do anything else given her social status. She approaches Jesus in silence and on her own. Jairus humbles himself before Jesus, even though he has every right to approach Jesus on his feet. He also brings a crowd of people who advocate for Jesus to help Jairus' daughter. Remember how power and value and worth operate in the time of the Bible. The more important you are, the less important I am. Everything is transactional when it comes to one's place in society. All of this happens in front of a large crowd, sure to tell the story with others. So a woman who's been considered unclean through no fault of her own for 12 years, and a girl who is 12 years old become the crux, the pitch point for Jesus' action. The woman, who presumably was once among the elite in her town, as evidenced by the fact that she had money to spend on the doctors over the years, is now among the least of these and presumably nearing the end of her life. The girl, who presumably is about to reach the age when her parents arrange a marriage for her, is instead on the verge of death, her whole life in front of her. I found it interesting during my studies this week that 60% of persons born in the first century died by their teen years. So perhaps Jairus' daughter's situation wasn't all that unusual. Still, losing a child is a horrific thing to experience. So there it is. Jesus is caught in between, and by occupying this space, his decision is made to acknowledge someone who's otherwise an outsider or an outcast. By listening to her faithful confession, by calling her daughter, he changes the woman's entire life and welcomes her into the fold. Still, there is the other daughter who's left, and now we hear from Jairus' people that this daughter is dead. Could Jesus have gotten there in time if he'd not stopped to change the unclean woman's life? Hard to say. Jesus doesn't accept the outcome. He calls on Jairus to have faith and invites a small group of witnesses to experience resurrection. So much of the Gospel of Mark is about calling on people to embrace or to have faith. Jesus persistently calls upon his followers and those outside his circle to believe. And Jesus shows the people, shows us, that it doesn't matter who you are or how rich or poor you are, how many people you have advocating for you. It doesn't matter what your place in society is. God is concerned with healing the broken. Jesus doesn't stop with the unclean woman, though he could have, and the people would seem to have understood. No, Jesus heals, resurrects 2 lives in the reading because Jesus knows that God's love extends to all. Here's the thing. What is true for the unclean woman and for Jairus' daughter is true for us too. Yes, we find ourselves in challenging situations. We can feel pinched between the demands for our time. This summer we are making up for the summer that was lost last year. Maybe you feel obligated to squeeze in twice as many trips to see family or for your family to take a break. Maybe you wish you could take a break. Whatever your circumstances are this summer, Jesus wants you to know that you are invited to lean into your faith. Faith offers you the kind of break, the kind of support that will see you through all the other challenges you face. All the seemingly impossible demands for your time and presence with others. Faith is the starting point for life in the world we occupy. Faith is what leads us to healing and acceptance because of Jesus. Faith is what allows you to approach Jesus in silence and trust that with Jesus, there is a new kind of identity and wholeness. Our community, together, is your advocate of support and prayerful intercession. It's not a quick fix, and it's not something that goes away quickly like the summer months after a long year. Jesus tells Jairus, tells you and me, do not fear, only believe. Just like in last week's reading, Jesus invites us to respond in faith and not in fear. And in this, there is hope for any impossible situation. Thanks be to God. Thank you for listening today. We are a congregation of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, based in Asbury, Iowa. We are committed to caring for our community and for our world through creative ministry. We'd love to have you join us for worship online each Sunday at 9 a.m. Till then, may God bless you and watch over you in these days ahead.